We work hard as physicians to take care of the health and well-being of our patients. But when it comes to our money, do we have the same condition of care? Probably not. Let's change that together. Welcome to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, where we'll fight and advocate for your financial literacy. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. Thanks for being here. Let's jump into the show. Hey guys, I want to welcome you guys to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. We've got a great episode this week. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button as well as the notifications bell, and be sure to like, comment, and share if you like this episode, and we'll get into this week's sponsor and show. This week's episode is sponsored by CityVest. CityVest has quickly become the most popular and best way for doctors to invest in top-performing real estate private equity funds that are usually reserved for institutional investors. This unique access to investing in these institutional funds is available for the first time ever through CityVest's easy and secure online investment platform. CityVest does the hard work of conducting due diligence and vetting the investments. They even get a third-party due diligence report that is posted on their website. As a result of aggregating a several million-dollar investment amount into their access funds, CityVest gains access to investing in the institutional investment and is able to negotiate better investment terms such as a 12% preferred return. You can check them out at cityvest.com or go to the link in the show notes below. Now on to the show. Before we begin today's content, here is a quick disclaimer. The information and material presented here is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as investment advice. The content is not a recommendation to buy or to sell. Some of the content may be for accredited investors only or may be sponsored posts. Every investment carries risks. Results have not been verified, so carefully weigh those risks against your investment goals and objectives and see if acting on the information matches with your investment thesis. Do your due diligence prior to investing, and as always, do not invest more than you can afford to lose. So welcome everybody to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, I talk about 4 different types of freedom: financial, location, time, emotional freedom. And the podcast has grown in the last year and a half to where I am now opening it up to a broader audience, and I'm bringing people doing things on the fringe and the cutting edge and advancing where our society, where culture is going, with the tenets of finances, empowerment, inspiration. So today I have a very special guest. His name is Jeremy Delk, and he is a father foremost. But he's also a very successful entrepreneur, investor, and speaker. So he's going to talk all about losing it all, lessons learned from the failures made, and you're going to come away with this show very inspired. So I'm really excited. So Jeremy, welcome.
Thanks, Christopher. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I was, we were talking backstage and hearing your story, and, it's very inspiring. So tell us, the listeners, your journey, and we can go from there.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. And really, I was excited to learn a bit more about your audience in the physician space and kind of, I think the niche that you're speaking towards and helping the people that help us, right, I think is so admirable and crucial. So hopefully I've got a bit of experience in the healthcare space, really good and bad and ugly, but I think you'll definitely take some away from it. And so will your listeners. I'm a small town kid from Bardstown, Kentucky. We're the bourbon capital of the world, just about an hour south of Lexington, where I live now. I was on Wall Street. I had this affinity to want to trade. So I started trading stocks at a very, very young age. 17, 18 years old. I was day trading. This is the late 90s. Then everyone follows the economy, knows what happened in the late 90s with the stock market. I grew a portfolio from about 30 grand to 3 million and lost it in about 3.5 days, which was a lot of fun. A lot of lessons there, not while you're in it, but retrospectively that I think I really took away and helped shape my career. But did a career in finance with a little company called Fidelity Investments in Boston, then in New York. Was making a ton of money after digging myself out of that hole that I blew up the portfolio in, and making a lot of money, having a time of my life as a young individual in New York City, but found that I wasn't fulfilled. And I think that may even resonate to a lot of your audience that, yeah, I've got the nice cars and the spoils of life, but I was going to work every day with all this ideas, and I was in the young 20s, and passion, and working for that big organization. Sometimes it's very much like new ideas aren't necessarily welcome. It's like, just keep your head down, kid, and it'll be okay. And I think that would probably resonate with some of your audience that, hey, I'm paid well and your physicians, I'm taken care of. But, most physicians I speak to, they got into medicine to help people back in the day. And I think sometimes with this 3P system, right, the payer, provider, and patient, sometimes that's lost. So for me, it wasn't healthcare, it was finance. I went out on my own and started Delk Enterprises about 20 years ago, and never looked back. Delk Enterprises is a small boutique venture capital firm. It's my money. I do co-invest with some. We do passive stuff, like I was early in Uber, Airbnb, 23andMe. Most of our investment portfolio is either doing early stage startups ourselves, acquiring 100% or at least 51% control, and then trying to have bolt them on into our little ecosystem. Involved from real estate development, building materials, into healthcare, probably like the last 10 years. So I can go into a lot of depth there, and I've done a lot in healthcare. Some I'm really proud of, some that kind of, cost me a lot, but nonetheless, really excited that for the journey. I think that I kind of put a mark on healthcare to some degree. Today, I find myself, we just exited a couple, one telemedicine concierge business, actually, I just exited. So now I'm primarily looking at, I'm doing a lot of speaking and going through, and someone much smarter than me one day kind of said, hey, Jeremy, you don't value what you know because you know it. And it really hit me, right? Because I always want to try to help. And my big thing and my drive for me, passion, is always learning. And now speaking to some of my coaching clients and, folks that I'm meeting with to even invest in their companies, they're hitting these roadblocks that, while you're there, back to me as a young kid losing millions of dollars, when you're in the moment, it's so hard to really look outside of it. But we all are human, and we're all natural, and we have this resilience to overcome adversity, but it's hard to remember it when you're in it. So that's where I think I've been able to add a lot of value to some of my clients now, that I kind of go through and look, either investing in the business, buying the business, or just doing some business coaching with them, is that let's really go through and dive down. What is the actual core problem, and what happens if it doesn't correct? What do we do? What's the move? And trying to think that more from a calm perspective, just because I've been through so much and I've faced those tough times and I've been able to come out the other side. So I think sharing that and being that rock as even a sounding board sometimes is helps.
Yeah, that's a fantastic intro, and a lot of points resonate. Same thing, and I think a lot of the listeners are really piqued and intrigued by how you got started, and a lot of the listeners may be interested in, for example, the private side of investing and real estate and syndications, angel investing, venture capital. So how did you get started in finance? Just what brought you to it?
At a very young age, growing up in small town USA was great, but I was just had this aspiration to see more and do more and go in this more big city life. And New York was that epicenter. And you watch any movie about New York, and a lot of times it is centered around finance and Wall Street. So that was kind of that first drive for me. I started, looking and reading, the Wall Street Journal young. And my father passed away when I was about 7 years old. And I think that shaped a lot of my ambition and my drive. And I came into like a $30,000 inheritance from him that my mom had put into Disney and 20th Century Ultra mutual fund. which were great investments, but not something that excited the young Jeremy Delk. So I started reading. This was like early days of the internet and Raging Bull. I don't know if it's even around anymore, but like message boards and like just like the early days. And I was, much more interested in the high flyer tech stuff, right? So JDS Uniphase and Qualcomm. That's where I learned my investing bones the hard way, right? I learned that you're not always invincible and that education is crucial. I was making a lot of money, tons of millions of dollars at a young age in a bull market. Everyone's a genius then, right? I think right now you're looking at things like, oh, well, maybe it's just not as easy as throwing it through there. So when I lost everything, I had gained a lot of market depth and knowledge just from experience when you're in it and that micro component day trading. And that's what afforded me to become at the time, I don't know if I've been replaced, but I know at the time I was the youngest broker and trader at Fidelity's history. I got licensed with my Series 763 at 20 years old. And I only got that shot just through happenstance and meeting, one of the head traders at a cocktail deal. And he's like, how do you know what you know about the market? Because I just had that knack for it, and you're following everything. And even if I wasn't trading in that sector, I had a good understanding what was going on in the piece. And experience is what gets that. You can't really read that. You just got to really just inundate yourself. And it was funny after losing it all, getting actually reading and learning licenses and going through and understanding my debt, finance, hedges, all these. I was completely naked on all my. I could have. The things I could have done to save that portfolio were so basic and disciplined. But hindsight's 2020, and you don't know until you kind of go. And look, retrospectively, losing that money was probably the best thing ever happened to me.
Yeah. And we all go through journeys, and what particular lesson in terms of losing it all, what was the most, like, the key takeaway just from that experience?
Well, I think it just goes back to like this resilience piece, right? I think so many. I've got a book that I just finished a chapter on. It'll be out later this year. It's more of a memoir, but there's definitely a lot of business lessons in it. And the title is Without a Plan. And it's a memoir of taking unbound action and failing my way to success. And I think failure in our society, especially even in school, it's instilled that this bad thing and this negative component. And I just really cannot disagree more. I mean, like I had this healthcare company we were the 24th fastest growing company in the US by Inc. 500, number 4 in healthcare. That's a cool accolade and stat. I didn't learn anything from that award. What I learned from all the stuff getting there, right, and failing and falling out, and just that resilience of kind of keeping going. I think that's the biggest lesson. And I've had tough times after that. Right? We've had that was a very regulated industry, and we had some issues from regulatory perspective, and paid a bunch of money, and I still hear it as well, right? I think that's the biggest piece, that while you're in the moment, you have to know that this too shall pass. And the important piece is not making the same mistake twice. It's okay to fail, and it's okay to make a mistake, but really learn from it and take it through, because that's the magic. That's the really important parts of where you dig into, like, understand, like, okay, how do I apply that? And that's why, most people that you see that have been in business for 20, 30 years, they're not oracles. They've just seen a lot, and they've failed a lot, but you won't ever see or learn those things unless you get started. And I think that's the biggest thing that I do in my coaching now. And I think my passion for my book is just to really let people know that it's okay, right? Embrace failure. I try to fail fast. I put rules on failure going through, so I can go through and have these micro failures, because that's where you really learn, as opposed to having this well thought out methodical plan with a 27 point strategy point. Why do it? Because no one, it doesn't work, right? Show me a business that's went exactly to plan. Show me one. Netflix, did Netflix go to plan? They said, I don't get DVDs in my mailbox anymore, right? They pivoted. You go through and waste all that time, and it's all theory. The best thing to know is when you're actually in it, going through and talking to a customer, talking to a patient, whatever that's when you learn, and that's when you can be adaptive. And I think programmed, at least my side, I tend to have a better result, because if you have this very diligent plan, Chris, you're going through and saying, all right, well, at this roadblock, I'm supposed to do this because that was my plan. if you don't have a detailed component, you can be much more agile and fluid and say, hey, well, this is the information I have now. These are my options. And you're much more decisive and you're less, because human nature is going to make you want to try to make that plan work. And so many times I see these entrepreneurs, square peg round holing it. I'm like, guys, take a step back. Look, isn't this an easier path? And if they didn't have that preconceived notion, they wouldn't be in their own way.
Yeah, it's like what we're going through now. The markets, the equities, the crypto markets. And people are just getting wiped out, and it's basically washing away all the weak players. And then but there's lessons to be learned, and strategies moving forward. So just like what you were saying, just take what take the lesson and then move forward, and then that's why you are able to come back much stronger. We hope you don't mind this brief interruption from one of our affiliates.
Doc to Doc is a personal lending solution designed by doctors for doctors. We understand that doctors' financial situations change faster than an insulin drip in ketoacidosis. And we also understand that doctors are the most reliable borrowers in the world. Through our proprietary algorithm, we're able to provide personal loans at great rates with amazing flexibility because we take into account your schooling, your specialty, and where you are in the medical journey. Doctors come to us after they've matched into residency, and we loan for all sorts of personal reasons, from credit card debt consolidation to family expenses and medical bills. We speak with everyone who applies for a loan and offer fixed interest rates and flexible term options without prepayment penalties. If you're a physician looking for a personal loan, fill out our application form now. It only takes 3 minutes, and we'll get back to you with a decision within 24 hours.
You had this setback, the failure, but you learned, you took the lesson, and then what opportunities helped you to, climb back to the top?
You have to be open. Look, life's a journey, right? I firmly believe that life is the journey, not the destination, right? And you have to be open to the journey. Right? I think that personal life, maybe there's some anomalies to this, but I'm 100% confident in business. There's no such thing as a good thing or a bad thing that happens to you in business. Life is only events. It's the emotions and the actions that we lay out to those events that will determine if they were good or bad. So to answer your question, it's just a natural progression. If I didn't blow up that $3 million portfolio, which taught me nothing always goes good forever. You're not always the smartest person in the room. You're not invincible. Like so many lessons that I learned from there. What's the worst could happen? Worst case happened, I could have went home and lived with my mom, right? After college. Like once I understand those pieces, that's that component. But then you have to look at where the journey takes you. Had I not lost that, I wouldn't have been renting apartments at a side gig to try to cover my condo bill and met that head trader at Fidelity. And then it wouldn't have led me to Boston as an institutional equity trader, to move to a city that I always dreamed of as a kid in New York. So you have to appreciate that there's a much bigger component that's happening. You just have to be open to receive it and say, hey, let's try it. And it always doesn't work out. Who cares? Now move on. Like living in regret and living in the woulda, shoulda, coulda, there's no fucking way to live, man. You just have to be open to try it and set boundaries, right? I mean, I'm not saying if your physicians are saying, hey, this is great inspiration, I'm going to go out and I always wanted to knit sweaters. Like that's probably not what you should do, but try and knit a sweater. Go through and just make those micro steps to just get started and then see how it goes. Stick your toe in. All right, well, maybe I can expand. I can go through and see if I can take it to the next level and the next level. But it's just that constant desire to continue to learn and be open to the lessons that are being taught to you, because nothing's happening at you or to you, right? That's what you have to change your mindset on. It's not happening at you. There's a reason these things are happening.
That's fantastic. And for all the listeners, all this is very inspirational. But you Jeremy, you mentioned that your venture, you're a venture capitalist and you look at, upcoming startups, a lot of physicians are actually interested in passive investments, particularly real estate syndications, but, there's a subset are interested in the startup world, with all of these upcoming technologies. So tell us more about your work.
Yeah, I mean, I practice what I preach, right? I've got a beach house down. I don't know if you're familiar with the British Virgin Islands, but it's a small little island called Joost van Dyke. If you listen to country music, Kenny Chesney's down there all the time, and he's been down by the house and sings about Ivans and what have you. I was down there, and I built a house on a very inhabited island, and I actually rented out for passive income after I'm not there because I have to kind of work as well. And I built that house 4 years ago in the middle of a hurricane, and I haven't made a mortgage payment personally in, I don't know, 4 years, something like that. We were looking at expanding. Then obviously COVID happened. I was down in the islands. This is November of this year. Very small community, and had some friends down. We were going out to Necker Island, Richard Branson's place, and just hopping around islands. And a realtor buddy and someone in government said, "Hey, Jeremy, this guy just bought this resort. He'd like to meet you. Maybe there's something you guys could do together." So I said, "Sure." I just said yes. No, I just said yes. And we said, "Yeah, listen, we got to gas up and get supplies at Tortola. Meet me at the fuel dock, run me over, and I'll check out the spot." I've literally been there one time for half an hour in board shorts and a t-shirt. And we're down in final legal diligence, and I'll probably end up buying 20% of that resort and developing 15 to 20 $1 to $2 million villas that we will sell. It's an already operating resort, and that we'll sell to investors that go through and get passive income like I did. I'm going to make a few $1 million out of that deal. I'm going to have fun. It's another place for me to go. They've got a great sushi restaurant. It's got a half a mile private beach. If I would have said, "No, well, I've got this plan," I wouldn't have seen that opportunity. Now, it doesn't always go that way, but that's where you have to be, open to see where it takes you, and just be curious. That's for me. I always go through. I've got another deal. I've got a meeting here in 20 minutes after we wrap with the guy that's got a SaaS company in college student housing that we're looking at doing. He's built a business. He's got some revenue. It's early stage, less than $1 million in annual revenue, but SaaS companies trade at 20, 30 times multiple if you can get some scale. I have a lot of resources that we could help them out from a marketing creative standpoint. So I look at anything, and then I'm just really quick to say, even failure, like, yes, I can help or I can't, because I can't do everything. I've got a very specific niche I can go through and help, but I've been fortunate that I've had a lot of good deal flow that comes through to me.
Nice. Yeah. Well, we're coming up on time, but I know you have a book coming out. So tell the listeners about your upcoming work, and then how people can contact you. I'm sure a lot of physicians are really interested. I was really inspired by this talk, and how they can contact you, follow you, work with you.
Yeah, for sure. Jeremy Delk. .com is the website. I'm Jeremy S. Delk on all social, so Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of those things. And I've got a simple link. You can book a call with me, chat. A lot of these things that I do some coaching. A lot of those have been really mutual beneficial for myself and the investor, because it allows me to do some diligence, and it's led me to a couple of deals where I've actually bought a company or invested in a company. So that's kind of a neat piece. And if it doesn't lead to that, hopefully they leave with some really good lessons and some takeaways. The book, man, if you've ever written a book, don't recommend it. It's a therapy session, all back into one. We're getting close. We're hoping to be done at the end of this year. So it should be ready and on stands by Christmas. I'll try and leak you out a couple of chapters that you can kind of share as they come through, and love to chat to you. But it's a story of my life that's really been how I live. It's the title says it all: without a plan. And this is not saying you can live through life aimlessly and lollipops and gumdrops. That's all going to work out. But just go and get started and go through and enjoy the ride, man. That's what life's about. And I think for your physicians that are going through it, I think that's really something that you're already doing such a good job by giving that component of like, hey, you're in a part in your career, you're helping people and you're burnt out or whatever. What's your why? I mean, I was making so much money, and that doesn't always mean happiness, right? Like, what's your why? For me, it's my kids, it's being a good father, it's travel, it's those things. Good work and investment returns help pay for and afford a lot of those things, but you got to get down to your core of what really is your passion. What do you want to do? And it needs to be authentic. It needs to be what's important to you, right? Not your neighbor, not Joe, not Chris, not Jeremy. What's important to you, and focus on that. And that's all that matters, man.
So well said. So it's been a really great conversation. I really enjoyed it. And for all the listeners, Jeremy's resources links will be in the show notes. And we look forward to having you as a future guest on the podcast.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
What a fantastic show. I hope you enjoyed our very special guest. Just remember, as a shout out to our this week's sponsor, cityvest.com. Cityvest gives you access to the best real estate private equity funds with enhanced investment terms, verified due diligence, and lower risk. You can check them out at cityvest.com or click on the link in the show notes below to hear about their upcoming investment offerings. If you enjoyed that episode, don't forget, that's just the free content. We also have paid premium content subscription with better guests, information, updates, and discussions that can't be accessed anywhere else. You can subscribe to our premium content by clicking on the link in the show notes below to subscribe. Just a quick note, members who sign up for the bottom floor price introductory the first year will be grandfathered into that price for life. I expect the monthly subscription amount to increase quickly next year and the year after, so don't delay. I'm excited that you made it for another episode. You are truly the best. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that my passion is to bring you the education you need to find your path to financial freedom. Please come back week after week for new content, new resources, and great guests. Until then, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out the website, www.drchrislewmdphd.com for more support. I'll see you next week.